The fluorescent lights of the negotiation room flickered slightly as Commander Jia Patel paced back and forth. Her face was etched with lines of determination and a hint of weariness. Outside the massive viewport, the serene swirl of distant galaxies contrasted sharply with the tension inside. Seated across from her was Zareth, the cold and calculating emissary of the Jaruk Dominion, his metallic skin reflecting the light with a subtle shimmer. His eyes, devoid of pupils, followed Patel's every move with unsettling precision. "Commander Patel," Zareth began, his voice a monotone that somehow conveyed a trace of menace. "The Dominion has been patient with humanity's expansion into the outer rims, but your presence there is no longer tolerable. You must withdraw or face the consequences." Patel stopped pacing and turned to face him squarely. "And if we refuse?" she asked, her voice steady despite the high stakes. "The Dominion has never engaged in war with humans," Zareth replied smoothly, his hands clasped together on the table. "Consider this a fair warning. Run, and you may survive." Patel smiled thinly, her response immediate and firm. "We appreciate your warning, Emissary Zareth. However, let me make our position unequivocally clear. Humanity will not be intimidated into abandoning our colonies. These people rely on us for their safety and well-being. We will protect them at all costs." Zareth's gaze hardened. "This is not mere intimidation, Commander. It is a promise. The might of the Dominion has subdued mightier civilizations than yours. It would be prudent to reconsider your stance." Unfazed, Patel leaned forward, her eyes locked onto Zareth's emotionless face. "And it would be prudent for the Dominion to understand who they are dealing with. Humans have a history of thriving under pressure. We stand united, not just for survival, but for the right to live freely. We have made our homes among the stars, and we will defend them." The room fell silent, the tension thick as the hum of the ship's engines resonated faintly in the background. Finally, Zareth stood, his height towering over Patel. "So be it, Commander. The Dominion will come. Prepare as you must." With those final words, he turned and exited the room, leaving behind a trail of cold air. As the door slid shut with a hiss, Patel turned to the viewport, her gaze cast out into the vastness of space. She whispered to herself, "Prepare we will." She knew the challenges ahead would be formidable, but her resolve was unshakable. Humanity would stand its ground. 2 decades earlier, humanity made its inaugural leap into the cosmos, far beyond the confines of the solar system. The year was 2084, a time marked by both trepidation and monumental hope. The spaceship Pioneer, a marvel of human engineering, drifted through the vast expanse of space, its mission clear and profound: to establish humanity's presence in the universe. Captain Elena Vasquez, one of the first astronauts selected for interstellar travel, gazed out of the command deck's viewport. Around her, the crew busied themselves with their duties, the soft beeps and clicks of the ship blending with muffled conversations. The vast loneliness of space was oppressive, but also filled with unexplored possibilities. As Pioneer approached the fringes of the Violn system, an unexpected transmission crackled through the communication array. "Unknown vessel, this is the Violnari conglomerate. You are entering controlled space. State your intentions." The crew froze. First contact. It was a scenario they had rehearsed countless times, yet nothing could have prepared them for the reality of the moment. Vasquez stepped forward, clearing her throat before responding. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earthship Pioneer. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and the possibility of friendship." What followed was an agonizing silence. Then the air around them shimmered, and a new voice spoke, warm and rich with curiosity. "Welcome, Pioneer. We are the Violnari. It is rare we meet travelers from uncharted regions. We invite you to our world to speak of peace and exchange knowledge." The invitation was unexpected, but welcome. Upon their arrival, the Violnari proved to be a civilization of scholars and historians, with slender, graceful forms and a culture that valued knowledge above all else. The meeting took place in a hall of light and crystal, where ideas flowed as freely as the waters in the Violnari fountains. The Violnari shared their vast archives of galactic history, revealing the existence of numerous civilizations, alliances, and the overarching Galactic Council. They spoke of the Jarak Dominion only in hushed tones, as a powerful empire that expanded through conquest and subjugation. It was here that humanity first learned of the broader galactic community and the delicate balance of power that maintained peace. Vasquez and her crew spent weeks learning, sharing Earth's history and cultures in return. When they finally departed, it was with a cargo hold filled with star charts, cultural artifacts, and an invitation to join the greater galactic discourse. As Pioneer made its journey back to Earth, Captain Vasquez reflected on their incredible fortune. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. They had been met not with hostility but with open arms and open minds. This pivotal encounter set the stage for humanity's rapid expansion into space, driven by a newfound resolve to take their place among the stars as equals and learners. As the shadow of the Jarak Dominion loomed ever larger, the disparate human colonies scattered across the galaxy realized the urgent need for unity. Previously isolated and fiercely independent, these colonies now faced a common existential threat that could only be countered through collective effort. Captain Arjun Singh, aboard the starship Valiant, played a pivotal role in rallying these colonies. Valiant traveled from one human outpost to another, each time delivering the same message. Unity was not just a strength, it was a necessity. On the bridge of Valiant, Captain Singh stood before his crew, his voice resolute. The Dominion doesn't see us as separate entities. They see us as one. And if we're to survive, that's exactly how we need to start seeing ourselves. The crew nodded in agreement, the gravity of their mission settling in. Their next stop was the mining colony on asteroid 239C, known as Haven. Haven was rich in valuable ores, but lacked the military infrastructure to defend itself effectively. As Valiant approached Haven, the communications officer received an urgent distress signal. The Dominion scouts had been spotted near the asteroid belt. Time was running out. Upon landing, Captain Singh met with Governor Ana Ruiz, a stern woman with a no-nonsense attitude shaped by years of managing the rough-and-tumble mining community. "Governor, we need to form an alliance," Singh urged, laying out the stark reality of their situation. "Alone, none of our colonies stand a chance against the Dominion. Together, we can build a defense network that spans the galaxy." Ruiz, skeptical at first, warmed to the idea as Singh outlined the strategy. The colonies could share intelligence, resources, and military assets. They could train together and learn from each other's strengths. The discussion was interrupted by an alert. The Dominion scouts had been sighted even closer to Haven. The threat was no longer theoretical. With no time to waste, Ruiz made her decision. "Let's do it," she declared. "Haven will join your alliance, Captain. We'll stand with Earth and any other colony that chooses to stand with us." Over the next few weeks, Valiant continued its mission. From the icy outposts on Neptune's moons to the bustling trade hubs in the Orion sector, Singh's message spread, and one by one, the colonies pledged their support. Each addition to the alliance brought new hope and new strength. But it was more than military and strategic needs that united them. As they shared technologies, cultures, and stories, a sense of broader human identity began to emerge. People from different worlds saw their struggles and dreams reflected in each other, forging bonds that went beyond mere alliance. Meanwhile, intelligence reports indicated that the Dominion was preparing for a full-scale invasion, likely targeting key colonies to fracture the fledgling alliance before it could become a significant threat. Captain Singh and his crew worked tirelessly, coordinating defensive strategies and bolstering the weaker colonies. The unity of humanity's scattered children was about to be tested as never before. The coming war would determine not just the survival of individual colonies, but the future of humanity as a collective force in the galaxy. Back on Earth, leaders from various nations and colonies convened for an emergency summit at the United Nations' newly established Interstellar Relations Council. The vast chamber, once used for terrestrial concerns, now buzzed with representatives from across human-occupied space, each aware that the decisions made here would shape the fate of humanity. Dr. Li Wei, the council's chairperson, opened the session with a grave tone. The threat we face is unprecedented. The Jarok Dominion has already shown aggressive tendencies towards our outposts. We must unify, not just in spirit, but in action. The representatives listened intently as intelligence updates were shared. The Dominion's forces were massing near strategic jump points in the Orion Nebula, a clear indication that they were preparing to strike. The nebula's position made it a critical gateway to numerous human colonies, making its defense crucial to the survival of the human presence in the galaxy. General Carter Mason, head of Earth's space defense, took the floor. The Orion Nebula is not just a strategic location, it's a symbol, he declared. Holding it against the Dominion could turn the tide of this conflict. We propose Operation Starshield, a coordinated defense of the nebula using every resource at our disposal. The plan was ambitious. It involved pooling military assets from across the colonies, constructing new defense platforms, and deploying a combined fleet of human starships. The logistics were daunting, but the alternative, a piecemeal defense, would almost certainly fail against the Dominion's superior forces. Captain Arjun Singh, called upon to share his insights from the front lines, spoke next. Unity has been our strength in forming this alliance. Now unity must be our strategy. Operation Starshield will show the Dominion that we are not scattered tribes to be picked off one by one. We are a civilization, and we will defend our future. His words stirred a sense of solidarity in the room. Discussions that followed were intense, with each leader recognizing the stakes. There was no room for rivalry or politics, not when the survival of humanity itself was at stake. The summit concluded with a unanimous vote in favor of Operation Starshield. Resources were allocated and plans were set into motion. Engineers, soldiers, scientists, and diplomats all would play a part in the coming battle. In the days that followed, the human territories buzzed with activity. Shipyards worked around the clock, constructing battleships and defensive satellites. Military academies and training bases ramped up their programs, preparing troops and commanders for the realities of space warfare. Despite the urgency, there was an underlying current of hope and defiance. Across human space, broadcasts and transmissions rallied the people. Civilians contributed to the war effort in any way they could, from manufacturing supplies to running simulations and providing logistical support. The skies above the Orion Nebula were alive with streaks of light and explosions as the largest assembly of human space fleets in history positioned themselves against the incoming forces of the Jarok Dominion. The nebula's gases swirled in brilliant colors, a silent witness to the unfolding conflict. Lieutenant Maya Chen, aboard the flagship Resolve, monitored the Dominion's approach with a calm intensity. Her fingers danced over the holographic controls, adjusting the ship's defensive systems and relaying critical information to her squadron. "Stay sharp," she instructed over the comm. "They're almost upon us." The first wave of Dominion ships, sleek and ominous, emerged from the nebula's edge, their weapons charged, unleashing a barrage of energy projectiles that lit up the void. The human fleets, prepared and united under a single command, responded in kind. The battle was not just a test of military might, but of the resolve of every pilot and crew member facing the unknown. Commander Gia Patel, overseeing the operation from Resolve, issued commands with precision. "Squadron leaders, initiate Maneuver 7. Let's give them a taste of our agility." The human ships dispersed, evading the heavy fire and regrouping to launch a counterattack. Lieutenant Chen found herself at the heart of the skirmish. Her ship, Sparrowhawk, darted through the chaos, targeting Dominion cruisers. Her pulse raced as she executed a risky move, slipping through the enemy's formation to deliver a devastating blow to their rear flank. The gamble paid off, and a Dominion cruiser erupted in a blinding explosion. Cheers erupted over the comm, but the victory was short-lived. The Dominion, adapting quickly to human tactics, pressed harder, their ships slicing through space with ruthless efficiency. In the thick of battle, an urgent message reached Commander Patel. "Commander, long-range scanners detect reinforcements incoming for the Dominion. We need to wrap this up quickly." Understanding the stakes, Patel made a decisive call. "All units, concentrate fire on their flagship. Cut the head off the snake. We need a knockout blow." The human fleet, battered but unbroken, rallied for one final assault. Ships converged, pouring all their firepower towards the imposing Dominion flagship. The sky was ablaze with the collective fury of humanity fighting for its place in the stars. As the Dominion flagship's shields faltered under the relentless barrage, Lieutenant Chen, alongside her squadron, swooped in for the final strike. Missiles and laser fire hammered at the exposed hull, ultimately piercing through to the core. With a cataclysmic explosion, the flagship was no more. The destruction of the flagship sent a shockwave through the Dominion forces. Confusion and disarray spread among their ranks, giving the human fleets an upper edge. Seizing the opportunity, Patel ordered a full advance, pushing the enemy back through the nebula. As the remnants of the Dominion fleet retreated, a jubilant yet exhausted cheer spread across the human ships. They had won the Battle of Orion, but the war was far from over. Still, this victory was a testament to human resilience and ingenuity, a signal to the galaxy that humanity would not be easily subdued. Lieutenant Chen, looking out at the retreating Dominion ships, felt a surge of pride and relief. They had faced the unknown, and they had prevailed, not just as fighters, but as defenders of a united human civilization. In the aftermath of the Battle of Orion, the victory brought humanity temporary relief, but the leaders knew that the Dominion's threat was far from over. While the fleets were reorganizing and the injured were being tended to, an unexpected communication came through that would change the course of the conflict. The message was from the Ilari, an ancient and reclusive species known for their neutrality in galactic affairs. The Ilari had observed the resilience and unity of humanity, and they decided to break their long silence. Commander Gia Patel received the transmission aboard the Resolve with cautious optimism. "Commander Patel." The voice was soft yet clear, distinctly non-human, with a melodious quality that resonated strangely through the communication system. "We are the Ilari. We have watched your struggle against the Dominion and are impressed by your valor and unity. We believe a diplomatic solution exists, and we would like to offer our assistance in achieving it." Patel, taken aback by the offer, responded thoughtfully, "We welcome your guidance, Ilari. Our desire has always been for peace, but we are prepared to defend ourselves if necessary." The Ilari proposed a secret meeting to discuss the potential for a peaceful resolution. The location was to be on a neutral planet, hidden from the usual space lanes to avoid Dominion attention. Patel agreed, realizing the risk, but also the unprecedented opportunity it presented. Preparations for the meeting were made in utmost secrecy. Captain Arjun Singh's Valiant was chosen to transport the human delegation due to its advanced cloaking technology. Accompanying Patel and Singh was Dr. Li Wei, representing Earth's diplomatic corps, well-versed in interspecies negotiations and galactic law. As they journeyed to the rendezvous point, Singh expressed his concerns. "Commander, are we sure we can trust the Ilari? We know so little about them." Patel, looking out into the starry expanse, nodded. "It's a risk, Arjun, but every path in this war carries its own dangers. This might be our chance to end this conflict without further loss of life." The meeting took place on a small, verdant planet, with lush forests and clear blue skies, an oasis of peace in the tense galaxy. The Ilari delegates were as enigmatic in person as they were in communications. Their appearances were ethereal, with translucent skin and graceful movements, making them seem almost part of the natural landscape. The talks lasted for days, with discussions on the history of the Dominion's aggression, the strategic positions of human colonies, and the potential leverage that could be used to bring the Dominion to the negotiating table. The Ilari shared their wisdom on diplomatic strategies and offered insights into the Dominion's culture and political structure that were unknown to the humans. One of the critical suggestions was the exploitation of a political faction within the Dominion that was quietly opposed to the war. The Ilari believed that supporting this faction could lead to a significant shift in the Dominion's approach. After the secret meeting with the Ilari, Captain Arjun Singh and his crew aboard the starship Valiant faced the critical task of returning to Earth with the new peace strategy. The route back required navigating through the Dantari asteroid field, a notorious and treacherous stretch of space that was riddled with floating debris and unpredictable gravitational anomalies. As Valiant approached the asteroid field, the mood among the crew was a blend of cautious optimism and intense focus. "All hands, this is Captain Singh," Arjun announced over the ship's intercom. "We're about to enter the Dantari field. I need everyone sharp and at their stations. Navigation, keep your eyes on the scanners. Helm, be ready to make course corrections at a moment's notice." The Dantari field loomed ahead, a chaotic jumble of rock and metal that had claimed many ships over the years. The onboard navigation systems of Valiant were state-of-the-art, but no amount of technology could completely safeguard against the random nature of the asteroid field. Lieutenant Jenna Morales, the ship's chief navigator, worked diligently at her station, plotting a course through the densest parts of the field. "Captain, I've calculated the safest route, but it's going to be tight. We'll need manual adjustments to get through." Singh nodded, his hands steady on the control yoke. "Understood, Lieutenant. Let's show them how it's done." As Valiant delved deeper into the field, the ship shook violently, pelted by smaller debris. The bridge crew was tense, every alert from the ship's sensors prompting swift maneuvers to dodge larger asteroids. Suddenly, an alarm blared. A massive asteroid, previously hidden by a smaller one, was on a collision course. "Brace for impact!" Singh shouted, but at the last second he rolled the ship laterally, scraping past the asteroid with mere meters to spare. The crew exhaled in collective relief, but there was no time to celebrate. More obstacles awaited, and their mission was too critical to fail. "Keep pushing, everyone. We're not out yet," Singh encouraged his team, as Morales plotted a zigzagging path forward, using the ship's thrusters to weave an intricate dance through space. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Commander Jia Patel prepared the diplomatic corps and the United Nations for the potential implementation of the peace strategy. Every moment that Valiant spent in the asteroid field was a moment closer to another potential outbreak of war. The tension was palpable as they awaited Singh's return. After what felt like an eternity, Valiant emerged on the other side of the Dantari field. The crew cheered, relieved to have navigated one of the most dangerous parts of space. Singh allowed himself a small smile but remained focused. "Good work, team. Let's get this information home. The real work starts now." As Valiant sped toward Earth, carrying the hope of peace brokered with the insights from the Alari, the political landscape back home was shifting. Commander Jia Patel, alongside Dr. Li Wei and other high-ranking officials, prepared for a diplomatic offensive that could potentially end the conflict without further bloodshed. Back on Earth, the United Nations Interstellar Relations Council convened in an urgent session. The vast chamber, usually filled with representatives from across human territories, was unusually somber. Everyone understood the gravity of the information that was to be discussed, a possible peaceful resolution to the war with the Jarok Dominion. Dr. Li Wei presented the strategy. "Based on our discussions with the Alari, we believe there is a faction within the Dominion that opposes the war. They are significant, but suppressed. Our approach should involve careful diplomatic engagements, supported by a display of our readiness to defend ourselves if necessary." Commander Patel added, "We need to be strategic. It's not just about showing our military strength, but also demonstrating our commitment to peace. We propose a summit, hosted on a neutral planet, inviting both the Dominion and representatives from other major civilizations in the galaxy. Our success today could set a precedent for how conflicts are resolved peacefully in our galaxy." The plan was ambitious. It required careful coordination and a bit of diplomatic sleight of hand to communicate with the anti-war faction without alerting the Dominion's militant leaders. Secret communications were sent through encrypted channels, and backdoor diplomatic channels were opened. Meanwhile, Valiant entered the Sol system. The crew, weary but determined, prepared for their arrival on Earth. Captain Singh sent ahead the data packets containing the full details of the peace proposal and the Alari's recommendations. "Make sure these get to Commander Patel immediately," he instructed his communications officer. "Every second counts now." Upon receiving the information, Patel and her team worked tirelessly to set the stage for the summit. The neutral planet of Helios was chosen as the venue, known for its strong stance on diplomatic neutrality and its natural beauty, which had a calming effect, an advantage in tense negotiations. The days leading up to the summit were fraught with covert preparations and silent prayers. Humanity's show of unity and strength at the Battle of Orion had given them a bargaining chip, but it was their willingness to engage in peace talks that tempered the more aggressive posturing from the Dominion. As the delegates from various galactic powers began to arrive at Helios, the air was thick with anticipation. Security was tight, with both visible and covert measures in place to protect all attendees. The human delegation, led by Commander Patel, was the last to arrive, their entrance marked by a quiet determination. As the summit commenced, the stakes could not have been higher. The future of human interaction with the galactic community and the very survival of countless colonies hung in the balance. Patel, opening the summit, spoke not just to those present but to the entire galaxy, her words broadcast across countless systems. "Today we stand at a crossroads," Patel began, her voice firm yet open. "The path we choose today, war or peace, will define the future of our galaxy. We are here to propose a new way forward, one that leads to peace and prosperity for all." The room was silent, the delegates listening intently. The first day of talks was about to begin, and with it, a flicker of hope that peace might finally be within reach. As the peace summit on Helios progressed, the atmosphere remained tense but hopeful. Delegates from various galactic powers engaged in intense dialogues, moderated by Commander Gia Patel and supported by Dr. Li Wei's diplomatic acumen. Yet beneath the surface of these diplomatic exchanges, a threat was brewing, one that could derail the entire effort to secure peace. Security Chief Lena Zhou, responsible for the safety of the human delegation, noticed anomalies in the summit's security network. Intrusions, subtle and sophisticated, hinted at a possible sabotage attempt. Taking no chances, Zhou increased surveillance and tightened security protocols around the summit venue. On the third day of the summit, as debates about territorial disputes and trade agreements were underway, Zhou's team intercepted a communication. It was a covert message between unknown parties, discussing a final move during the summit's closing ceremony. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Zhou acted swiftly. "Lieutenant, lock down the conference room and scan everyone inside. We might have a breach," Zhou instructed her second-in-command. The security team mobilized, discreetly sealing exits and initiating a thorough scan of all attendees. Meanwhile, Commander Patel continued the proceedings, unaware of the unfolding drama. Her focus was on maintaining a balance between the different factions, particularly keeping the Dominion representatives engaged, despite their occasional resistance to concessions. The security team's efforts paid off when they discovered a hidden device in the ventilation system of the main hall. It was a sophisticated explosive, likely intended to cause chaos and fear, sabotaging the peace talks. Zhou personally oversaw the device's safe removal and disposal, while her team detained 2 individuals linked to the sabotage attempt. Investigations revealed that the saboteurs were mercenaries, hired through layers of intermediaries. Their goal had been to disrupt the summit and prevent any agreement, likely benefiting those who thrived in wartime economies. With the immediate threat neutralized, Zhou briefed Patel about the incident. Shocked but composed, Patel addressed the summit. "Today we faced a test not just of our diplomatic resolve, but of our commitment to peace. Saboteurs tried to derail our efforts. They did not succeed. This only strengthens our resolve to find a path forward together." The revelation of the sabotage attempt had an unexpected effect on the summit's dynamics. Sympathy for the human delegation grew, and the seriousness with which they approached the negotiations became evident. Even the more skeptical parties acknowledged the importance of the talks, realizing that external forces wished to see them fail. As the summit resumed, the discussions took on a new level of earnestness. Delegates worked late into the night, drafting agreements and resolving disputes with a renewed sense of urgency and unity. The close call had reminded everyone present of the fragile state of peace in the galaxy and the dangerous forces willing to go to great lengths to prevent it. Following the narrow avoidance of disaster at the summit, the spotlight inadvertently fell on Sergeant Thomas Reyes, whose small but crucial role during the incident had become a pivotal moment in the ongoing peace negotiations. His actions not only thwarted a secondary attempt to disrupt the summit, but also solidified his reputation as a decisive and capable leader. Reyes had been tasked with the security of the communications hub on the moon Tyrannus, which was being used as an auxiliary support center for the summit on Helios. The hub was critical. It not only facilitated communications across the galaxy, but also held the summit's sensitive data. As Reyes patrolled the hub's perimeter, he noticed unusual signal activity. Someone was attempting to upload malicious code into the communication system, likely aimed at causing a blackout during the summit's critical voting session. Acting swiftly, Reyes coordinated with his team to trace the source within the hub. Their search led them to a maintenance bay where they caught a technician attempting to install the code. After a brief confrontation, Reyes apprehended the suspect, who was surprisingly a hired operative from a rival faction within the Dominion itself, aiming to destabilize the summit and prevent any agreement favoring peace. With the suspect in custody, Reyes took immediate steps to secure the hub. He implemented a series of fail-safes and redundancies to ensure the integrity of the summit's communications. His quick thinking and leadership not only averted a potential catastrophe, but also ensured the smooth continuation of the peace talks. The news of Reyes's successful intervention quickly reached the summit, where Commander Patel and the other leaders were engaged in delicate negotiations. Recognizing the importance of his actions, Patel requested Reyes to be temporarily assigned to Helios for the remainder of the summit. Upon his arrival, Reyes was introduced to the assembly. Commander Patel publicly commended his bravery and keen judgment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Patel addressed the gathered delegates, "let me introduce Sergeant Tomas Reyes, whose vigilance has protected our proceedings. He is a shining example of the dedication and resolve that defines humanity." Reyes's unexpected rise to prominence was not just a personal achievement, but became a symbol of the younger generation stepping forward in times of crisis. His presence at the summit provided a fresh perspective and renewed energy among the delegates, reminding them of the stakes at hand, not just political but personal futures being shaped by their decisions. In the days that followed, Reyes participated in several key sessions, providing insights from his security experience and representing a more dynamic and proactive approach to galactic diplomacy. His involvement added a layer of practicality to the often theoretical discussions about peace and security. As the summit neared its conclusion, the influence of Reyes's actions was evident. The atmosphere shifted from cautious diplomacy to a more open and collaborative effort. Delegates were not just negotiating, they were actively working to forge lasting bonds, inspired by the example of unity and courage demonstrated by Reyes and others like him. Reyes, once just a sergeant in charge of a distant communications hub, had become an integral part of the historical peace process, illustrating that leadership can emerge from any rank and that every action, no matter how small, contributes to the larger cause of peace. The uplifting mood at the summit on Helios was soon tempered by urgent reports from Earth. The Jarok Dominion, seemingly impatient with the prolonged negotiations and perhaps skeptical of their outcome, had initiated a bold and aggressive siege on Earth's orbital defenses. This drastic move was a clear attempt to pressure the summit into favoring Dominion interests, demonstrating their capability and willingness to strike at the heart of human civilization. Commander Gia Patel, upon receiving the distressing news, felt a heavy burden settle upon her shoulders. The siege was not just a military assault, it was a direct challenge to the peace process she was spearheading. She immediately convened an emergency session with Earth's Space Defense Command and the summit's Security Council. On Earth, General Carter Mason faced the onslaught of Dominion forces. The orbital shield, Earth's primary defense against space-based attacks, was under relentless fire from Dominion battleships. The shield's energy was depleting at an alarming rate, and Mason knew they couldn't hold out much longer without reinforcements. Back on Helios, Patel briefed the delegates. "The Dominion is testing our resolve. They are attacking our home planet to scare us into submission. We must not falter in our commitment to peace, but we also must protect our people. Amidst the crisis, an unlikely alliance began to form. Delegates from several non-human civilizations, previously neutral or distant, stepped forward. Moved by humanity's plight and Commander Patel's impassioned plea, they offered tactical support and immediate military aid. This gesture of solidarity was a testament to the bonds that had been forged during the intense days of negotiation. Meanwhile, on Earth, the situation was deteriorating. As the orbital shield flickered dangerously, signaling its potential collapse, Mason coordinated a desperate counteroffensive. Lieutenant Maya Chen, hailed as a hero from the Battle of Orion, led a squadron of Earth's best pilots in a daring sortie to target the Dominion's flagship. The space around Earth became a chaotic battlefield. Explosions lit up the dark sky as Chen and her squadron weaved through enemy fire, each pilot determined to protect their home. In a critical move, Chen managed to deliver a crippling blow to the flagship's propulsion systems, buying Earth some much-needed time. As the battle raged, back on Helios, the summit delegates worked feverishly to draft a resolution condemning the Dominion's aggression and calling for an immediate ceasefire. The resolution passed with an overwhelming majority, and a joint fleet, comprising ships from multiple allied civilizations, was dispatched to reinforce Earth's defenses. The arrival of the joint fleet marked a turning point in the siege. The Dominion, caught off guard by the unified response from the Galactic community, found themselves outmatched and began to withdraw. Earth's orbital defenses held barely, but the message was clear. Humanity was no longer isolated in its fight. Despite the heroic efforts to repel the initial onslaught and the reinforcement from allied fleets, Earth's orbital defense shield finally succumbed to the relentless attacks from the Jurok Dominion. The shield generator, critically damaged and beyond immediate repair, left Earth vulnerable and exposed. This dire situation sent shockwaves throughout the human colonies and compelled the leaders at the Helios summit to expedite their negotiations. On Earth, General Carter Mason faced the grim reality of an unprotected planet. As the last remnants of the shield dissipated into sparks and energy flares, Mason rallied his forces for ground-based defense. "This isn't over," he declared across the global defense network. "We knew this day might come. Every city, every outpost, we defend them to the last. Prepare for ground engagement." Meanwhile, in space, the situation grew desperate. Without the shield, Earth's atmosphere was directly exposed to the Dominion's orbital bombardments. In a bold move, pilot Rajiv Kumar, known for his unorthodox tactics, proposed a daring countermeasure. "We can't restore the shield in time," he said during an urgent strategy meeting, "but we can make a shield of our own." Kumar's plan was audacious, to create a makeshift barrier using debris from destroyed ships and satellites. This improvised shield wouldn't hold long against sustained attacks, but it could buy Earth crucial hours. Teams of pilots, engineers, and robotic drones worked feverishly, maneuvering the debris into position using the gravitational pulls and their ship's tractor beams. Back on Helios, the news of Earth's shield failure accelerated the summit talks. Commander Jia Patel, though miles away and feeling each moment of the battle vicariously through reports, coordinated a unified diplomatic response. "Let's use this," she urged the delegates. "Show the Dominion that their aggression only strengthens our unity." As Earth's makeshift shield began taking shape, an incredible scene unfolded in the skies above. Fragments of metal and composites interlocked in a complex, glowing lattice, a testament to human ingenuity and desperation. Kumar, piloting his ship through the debris, coordinated the effort. "Keep it tight," he radioed to his team. "Every inch of coverage counts." On the ground, citizens watched the sky with a mix of awe and fear, their fates hanging on the ingenuity of those above. Communities across the globe prepared for the worst, their defenses bolstered by the solidarity and assistance from their interstellar allies. The Dominion, observing the unexpected resistance and the galactic rallying around Earth, hesitated. Their leadership, already dealing with the internal pressures and the surprising setbacks at the summit, began to reconsider their strategy. As the debris shield held, buying precious time, the summit on Helios reached its climax. A comprehensive peace proposal, bolstered by the urgent circumstances, was put forth. The document called for an immediate ceasefire, outlining steps for a permanent resolution and the reconstruction of affected regions. With the proposal ready, Patel communicated directly with the Dominion's delegates. "Look at what we've achieved, even under your assault," she broadcasted, her image transmitted across galactic channels. "You can destroy our shield, but not our resolve. Join us in peace or stand alone against the united galaxy." With Earth's makeshift debris shield holding, albeit precariously, the focus shifted back to the diplomatic efforts on Helios. Commander Gia Patel, along with the representatives of the United Galactic Civilizations, finalized the peace proposal, incorporating robust terms that would ensure security and mutual cooperation across the galaxy. In a strategic move to reach not just the leaders, but also the citizens of the Jarak Dominion, the Human Alliance decided to broadcast the peace proposal galaxy-wide. This was a gamble, as it bypassed the traditional diplomatic channels and appealed directly to the populace and the moderate factions within the Dominion. The operation to broadcast the message relied on the recently secured communications hub on Tyrannus, which Sergeant Tomas Reyes had defended from sabotage. The hub, now under full control and heavily guarded, was the most capable of handling such a wide broadcast due to its powerful transmitters and strategic location. As the time approached to send out the message, Reyes coordinated with the technical teams to ensure that the broadcast would penetrate the Dominion's notorious information control barriers. "We need this message to reach every corner of their territory," he instructed the technicians. "Adjust the encryptions and boost the signal. This message of peace needs to cut through the noise of war." Meanwhile, on Helios, Commander Patel recorded the message with the gravity and poise needed for such a historic moment. "People of the Jarak Dominion and beings of the galaxy," she began, her image set against the backdrop of the diverse representatives supporting the peace initiative. "We reach out to you not as enemies, but as potential allies, united in our desire for peace and prosperity. We propose a ceasefire and invite your leaders to join us in forging a new path, a future without war." The broadcast went live, the signals spreading out across space, crossing vast distances to reach countless worlds. On Dominion planets, the message interrupted regular programming, appearing on public screens and personal devices, much to the surprise of citizens and the chagrin of some of their leaders. The reaction was mixed, with some sectors of the Dominion population showing open support for the peace initiative, while others, loyal to the militant leadership, denounced it as a sign of weakness. The internal response was closely monitored by both sides, as it would significantly influence the Dominion's next move. On Earth, as people watched the broadcast alongside their allies, there was a palpable sense of hope. They saw the faces of beings from different civilizations standing together for a common cause, and it bolstered their spirits. It was a reminder that they were not alone in their struggle. The decision to go public with the peace proposal also had a strategic impact on the Dominion's leadership. Facing growing public pressure and the visible unity of other galactic powers, they found themselves at a crossroads. Support for the war within their own ranks started to wane, and cracks began to appear in their facade of unity. As the galaxy awaited the Dominion's official response, the tactical team on Earth continued to maintain the debris shield, ensuring the planet's safety against any potential aggression. The unity and resolve shown by Earth and its allies had turned what began as a desperate defense into a powerful statement of resilience and hope. This bold move to broadcast the peace message not only pressured the Dominion externally, but also ignited debates and discussions within its borders about the direction of their civilization and the cost of continued conflict. In the wake of the galaxy-wide broadcast of the peace proposal, tension mounted as all eyes turned to the Jarak Dominion for their response. The bold move by the Human Alliance to reach directly into the heart of Dominion territory had stirred a mix of unrest and hope among its populace. Inside the Dominion's leadership, heated debates ensued, revealing the deep divisions between the hardliners committed to the war and the growing faction favoring negotiation and peace. After days of silence, which seemed to stretch into an uneasy eternity, the Dominion finally issued its response. In a terse, widely broadcast message, the Dominion's Supreme Council announced a unilateral ceasefire. The Jarok Dominion will cease all hostilities effective immediately, declared a senior counselor, his tone controlled, yet betraying a hint of concession. We are prepared to enter into talks to discuss the terms of the peace proposal outlined by the United Galactic Civilizations. On Earth and across human-controlled territories, the announcement was received with a mixture of relief and skepticism. The memories of past aggressions were still fresh, and trust in the Dominion's intentions was thin. Yet the ceasefire offered a precious moment of respite and a glimmer of hope that peace might be achievable. Commander Gia Patel, who had become the face of the diplomatic effort, addressed the Human Alliance and their supporters in a broadcast. "This ceasefire is a testament to what we can achieve together," she said. "It is a step towards peace, but it is only the beginning. We must remain vigilant and prepared, even as we extend our hand in goodwill." The Human Alliance wasted no time in capitalizing on the ceasefire. Emergency meetings were convened to discuss the next steps, and a delegation was prepared to meet with Dominion representatives. The peace talks were scheduled to take place on the neutral planet of Helios, which had served as the venue for the initial peace summit. Meanwhile, Sergeant Tomas Reyes, who had played a critical role in maintaining the communications link during the summit, was tasked with ensuring that the peace talks were secure. Reyes and his team set up a series of security protocols around the Helios Conference Center, creating a safe environment for the negotiations. As the delegates arrived, the atmosphere was cautious but hopeful. The Dominion's delegation, led by a seasoned diplomat named Minister Kareth, appeared equally aware of the historic significance of the talks. "We come with the authorization of the Supreme Council to seek a lasting peace," Kareth stated during the opening session. "Let us not squander this chance." Over the following days, intense negotiations unfolded. Issues on the table included the demilitarization of contested zones, the establishment of a war reparations fund, and guarantees for the protection of civilian lives and property. Both sides had to make difficult concessions, but the alternative, resumption of hostilities, weighed heavily on all participants. Throughout the talks, the global community remained engaged, following updates and supporting the peace process through various channels. On Earth, public vigils were held, and messages of support flooded social media, reflecting a collective desire for a peaceful resolution. Finally, after weeks of negotiations, the delegates reached a consensus on a preliminary peace agreement. The document, requiring ratification by the governments of both sides, outlined the framework for a comprehensive peace plan, including mechanisms for ongoing dialogue and conflict resolution. Following the tentative peace agreement reached on Helios, efforts shifted towards cementing the fragile ceasefire into a lasting peace. Amidst these diplomatic maneuvers, Nora Sato, a seasoned diplomat from Earth, was selected for a high-stakes mission. She was to travel to the Dominion capital on a covert assignment aimed at fostering deeper understanding and securing the support needed to ratify the peace treaty. The journey to the Dominion capital was fraught with risks. Traveling on a civilian transport to avoid drawing attention, Sato was disguised as a traitor. Her real mission was to engage with key influencers within the Dominion's political and social spheres who could sway public opinion and political decisions towards a lasting peace. Upon arriving, Sato was struck by the stark contrasts between the Dominion's propaganda and the reality on the ground. The capital was a bustling metropolis, but beneath its surface, there was a palpable sense of war weariness among its citizens. Conversations overheard in cafes and public squares often hinted at a deep desire for an end to hostilities. Sato's first contact was with a local journalist, known for his subtle critiques of the Dominion's policies. Meeting discreetly in an old library, they discussed the human perspective on the war and the peace efforts. The journalist agreed to help Sato by publishing a series of articles highlighting the benefits of peace. Using the information she provided about the negotiations and the positive reactions from other galactic communities. Next, Sato reached out to a member of the Dominion's assembly, a known advocate for reform. In the quiet of a private garden, They discussed the economic and social toll the war had taken on both their civilizations. The legislator expressed support for the peace treaty and promised to push for its ratification within the assembly, emphasizing the need for a shift from military spending to rebuilding the Dominion's infrastructure. Sato's efforts were not without danger. The Dominion's security services were vigilant, and foreign spies were ruthlessly dealt with. Utilizing her extensive training in covert operations, she managed to stay under the radar, her movements within the capital meticulously planned to avoid suspicion. As Sato built a network of allies, back on Helios, the diplomatic teams worked around the clock to draft the final terms of the treaty. Every concession and every agreement Sato secured was relayed back to the negotiators, informing their strategies and strengthening their position. The turning point came when a high-ranking official from the Dominion's military, disillusioned by the endless conflict, reached out to Sato. Meeting in a derelict warehouse, he shared classified information that detailed the Dominion's dwindling resources and low morale within the military. This critical intelligence confirmed that the Dominion was indeed ready for peace, albeit unwilling to admit it publicly. With this information, Sato facilitated a back-channel communication between this official and Commander Patel on Helios. The subsequent discussions led to a crucial breakthrough in the peace talks, with the Dominion's negotiators conceding to key demands that ensured greater security and autonomy for the human colonies. After weeks of dangerous and delicate diplomacy, Sato's mission concluded successfully. She returned to Helios under the guise of a returning trader, her contributions largely unknown to the galaxy, but crucial to the peace process. The groundwork she laid in the Dominion capital had not only bolstered the peace efforts, but it also paved the way for a new era of cooperation between former foes. With the peace treaty officially ratified and public sentiment within the Dominion increasingly supportive of the new direction, the political landscape began to shift dramatically. The once dominant war faction found themselves increasingly isolated as more of the Dominion's citizens and officials rallied behind the peace advocates, spurred on by the tireless undercover efforts of diplomats like Nora Sato and the visible benefits of peace outlined by the Galactic community. In this new climate, Minister Kareth, who had led the Dominion's delegation at the peace talks, emerged as a pivotal figure. His credibility had been bolstered significantly by the successful negotiations, and he leveraged this newfound influence to consolidate support for the treaty within the Dominion's highest echelons of power. Meanwhile, on Earth and across human colonies, the focus shifted to rebuilding and recovery. Infrastructure damaged by the war was rapidly being restored, and joint ventures between human and Dominion businesses were initiated, aimed at boosting economic growth and fostering interstellar trade. The spirit of cooperation led to technological exchanges that benefited both sides, with human innovations in agriculture and renewable energy being particularly prized. Back on the Dominion capital, as Kareth prepared for a historic address to the Supreme Council, he met privately with his most trusted advisors. "We have a unique opportunity," he explained, "not only to end a costly war, but to lead our people into a new era of prosperity and openness. We must seize this moment to reform our governance and strengthen our alliances." The address to the Supreme Council was broadcast live across the Dominion. Kareth outlined the benefits of the peace treaty, emphasizing the economic gains and the end of military conscriptions, which had drained the Dominion's resources and spirit. He also proposed new policies to increase transparency in government and to encourage public participation in the political process. The speech was a resounding success. It marked a significant departure from the Dominion's traditionally secretive and authoritative governance, sparking a wave of optimism about the future. As the tide of public opinion turned, the hardline elements within the Dominion found themselves sidelined. Several high-ranking officials who had been instrumental in perpetuating the war faced charges of corruption and misuse of power, leading to a series of high-profile trials that were seen as a cleansing of the old guard. On Helios, Commander Gia Patel and other leaders of the Human Alliance watched these developments closely. Patel convened a series of meetings to discuss how best to support the Dominion's transition while safeguarding the interests of the human colonies. "We must be generous in peace as we were resolute in war," she advised her counterparts. The Galactic Council, seeing the success of the Human Dominion Treaty, proposed expanding the peace framework to include other minor conflicts in the galaxy. The Council invited Patel and Kareth to speak about their experiences and the lessons learned from their negotiations, hoping to replicate their success elsewhere. The turning of the tide was not just a political shift, but a cultural one as well. Across Dominion and human worlds, cultural exchanges and educational programs flourished, with a particular focus on the youth. Students from the Dominion attended universities on Earth and vice versa, fostering a generation that would grow up with friends across the stars. As the first anniversary of the peace treaty approached, a massive celebration was planned, hosted jointly by Earth and the Dominion. The event was to feature cultural performances, academic symposiums, and exhibitions showcasing joint technological advancements. It was a testament to how far both civilizations had come, from adversaries on the brink of mutual destruction to partners in building a hopeful, shared future.